Hey rock and rollers. So this sort of model where we have an adaptation window between two extremes of where forces increase to a point where tissue is damaged and the stress level decreases to the point where we're actually getting disuse and atrophy and all the bad things that we don't want, should be pretty familiar, right? We're used to this is what we do. When we have tissue injury, I think that process is a little more straightforward and probably more obvious to us as well, particularly from a rehab perspective. We know that we've exceeded this, we're down here temporarily and we load it back up towards full capacity. And pain in that sense is often quite a useful guide, and we often do avoid it to make sure we're not risking any further damage. But when we're in painland and we're confident that we don't have any tissue damage, we still have the same window. We can still damage healthy tissue and we can still deload them so much that we get the problems associated with disuse. So we're still loading people up in different ways to get them to adapt, to get them closer to what they want. But do we still use pain as a measure of how much to do? Of course we will. We don't want to ignore them being in lots of pain and force them or coerce them to do it. But by the same token, we can think of plenty of examples where things will hurt and we're encouraging people to continue, particularly as pain persists. So where do we use pain and where do we not use pain? And rather than give you the answer, I think having extra variables that you're aware of other than pain make that a much easier equation to try and solve for that person. So what I mean is, say let's just use back pain and it hurts when they bend. If they're bending slowly and maybe they're sitting down and bending, even though that hurts, the speed of the movement, the complexity of the movement, the forces involved in the movement would all make us very confident that we're nowhere near this. So that's one we might encourage someone to continue with. If we are getting them to, I'm not sure why you would do this, but lift 50 kilos from below their feet as fast as humanly possible up and down, that's pretty tough, but certainly that's probably more in the vicinity of forces that might be either damaging or too much for the system, right? So it's faster, there's more force involved, we're at the extremes of range of motion. So those three things make us more concerned that whether it's tissue damage or just a more acute pain event, bad things might happen if we do that. But there's a big gap between those two, right? So it's in the middle where it gets a bit murky, and I think a lot of it is, and part that we have to be aware of, is how comfortable we are in making someone do something that is painful. Having these other variables in mind also can make you more comfortable that causing someone pain essentially is good for them in a strange way. So as sort of expanding on that example a bit more, the other side of that equation is equally problematic. So if we say, okay, it hurts when you bend, let's not bend then, because we don't want you to be in pain, we are risking everything that's happening down here. And after doing this for 20 years, I would say that what happens below this line is equally damaging for people than what happens above that line. So I would be equally concerned about going below this line as going above this one. This one's more obvious, so we tend to have more, and it's obviously more acute and concerning for the person. This one is more insidious and slow, but my argument is equally, if not more, disabling. What often happens is we'll pick a level, right? Based on our assessment of this person and what they want and where they are, we'll pick a level of loading or stress application or whatever you want to call it. And then there'll be a reaction of their system, whether they like it or don't like it or whatever it is. Based on that reaction, we can then go, up or down to try and get less of a reaction or more adaptation. And certainly the more, in a reactive system, the more stress we apply to it, the more likely it is to react, right? We're taught, and we have it almost ingrained in us, that if we do something and it increases their symptoms, then we need to decrease it. And a lot of the time that is the case. I'm not advocating for ignoring someone and how they feel and making them do something that is incredibly painful, not at all. But in the right context and with our assessment of all of those variables, sometimes we do get people to do stuff that hurts, and that is actually the way forward. So making sure we're not reacting to our own discomfort about someone else's pain is number one. Number two is thinking about other ways around things. So the example that people often don't think about is what would happen if this is our assessment of their capacity, we're always trying to stay under it to push it up, and also to avoid the possibility of making things more painful. What would happen if we went above what they're capable of? Now, we're still under where things will get damaged. We're not trying to exceed tissue capacity. That's crazy, we would never do that. But we are sometimes trying to exceed current system capacity, particularly if on our assessment, we're confident that we're not going to do any harm or increase a person's symptoms past where they are comfortable to or able to tolerate. So we're not trying to hurt people, we're not trying to upset people, but we are trying to cause the system to adapt. In a healthy person, so think of yourself for an instance. When you say you want to get fitter or stronger or faster, do you stay under your current capacity all the time? No. You will try and do something that is difficult, or even things that you are learning, cognitive capacity. You will try and do things outside your current capacity to cause your system to go, shit, I need to get better here. In lots of human endeavors, that is how the system adapts. So not so much that we're risking failure, but more than we are currently capable of. I mean, in many ways, if we stay at the same level for a long time, over time, that will decrease our adaptation. So we have to be occasionally increasing the stresses we put on ourselves past what we are currently capable of to cause the system to catch up and go, shit, okay, I need this to be better. We can do that with people in pain as well. If we are successful, the other thing that it creates is the system having to recalibrate based on, hang on a second, I just did this. I didn't think I was capable of that. What does that mean for everything else? So we are mucking around with different body systems here to try and get the person adapting in the direction that they want to go. So using pain as your only guide as to whether you can or you can't, I think is a bit flawed. I think there are more things to look at, because if you can triangulate, or whatever the word is when you use 6 or 7 reference points, and be confident that they're gonna be okay, you can ask them to do more than they are currently capable of to trigger adaptation. But it's important to make sure that you're confident. You may not be right, but you certainly can't ask people to go up here, and nor should you. Sometimes you'll make them more painful, definitely. But you can do that down here. So our skill and our value is helping people bridge this gap. And sometimes that involves more than they think, or maybe even you think, that they're currently capable of.